everybody. I'm Karen Hartglass, and you're listening to another episode of It's All About Food. Thank you for joining me. Very interesting topic today with a very lovely person that I've had on this program numerous times. Mark Reinfeld is with us, and he has a new book out called Islands of Peace, Navigating the World of Special Needs Parenting. Mark, as you may know, is an award-winning author, chef, and parent advocate with over 25 years in wellness and education, founder of Vegan Fusion and co-creator of the Islands of Peace framework. Mark blends compassion, creativity, and lived experience in his work. He and his wife, Ashley, are parents to a child with Angelman syndrome and are dedicated to supporting families navigating the complex, beautiful, and often overwhelming world of special needs parenting. And there's more, we'll hear about it later, about ohanavitality.org.
Thank you so much for having me on the show again, Karen. It's always great to be here.
Well, I've always loved you as a person.
Mm,
Your compassion, your honesty, your genuineness just comes right through.
mm.
And it's always a pleasure to talk to you. And we always talked about one of my favorite subjects, food, because you've written so many wonderful cookbooks.
Mm.
The last time we talked, you were promoting a virtual vegan chef training. Was a couple of years ago after the pandemic, and I think you mentioned that you had a special needs child, but we really didn't go into the details.
Yeah, so I'm still offering my vegan part of my life is still going strong. I still offer those 4-week trainings. I have one coming up in January. And actually now post-COVID, I'm doing one of my first live workshops on Maui at the beginning of January. So
Oh,
still
that
doing
sounds
the
awesome.
the vegan thing pretty
Maui
strong.
in January and learning about making vegan food. That's paradise.
Totally.
Okay, Mark, I'm happy to talk to you for as much time as you have today, but I'm understanding after reading your book, Islands of Peace, that you've got quite a load on your shoulders and handling numerous things at once. So thank
Yes.
you for being here. And one of the things that I got out of this book, and we'll talk about some specifics in a moment. I know you've written this being a parent of special needs child for other parents of special needs children, but there's so much in here that applies to all of us in
Mm,
any situation that breeds anxiety, which is everything right now on this planet.
totally. Yeah, I actually feel that too.
And for for individuals, I resonated with a lot of what you recommended from my cancer experience in
Mm,
2006.
mm.
So there's a lot of good stuff in here.
Thank you.
And I'm wondering how you had the time to write it.
Well, it's interesting. It was in between when I do my 4-week trainings, it's pretty much that's consumes a lot of my time, and so there I had a break over the summer, and I did as I mentioned in the front of the book, I had the outline and the ideas and the concepts, and I did use AI to assist as like a writing guide. I think if
Yes.
I didn't, we would have been doing this show, and I would be saying I have this great idea for a
Yep.
book, and if you interviewed me next year, I'd probably be saying I have this great idea for a book. So it really helped expedite, like to pull the thoughts and concepts out of me.
I appreciate you bringing that up and also being very transparent about it at the beginning of the book. AI is a fascinating subject and there's so much good to it, but there's
Yeah,
also plenty of bad.
it's a mixed bag for sure.
And I've used it,
Mhm.
and the work that I do, my manager told me to use it, and
Mhm.
I'm careful.
Yeah,
And sometimes I use it for this podcast.
great.
But there's a way to work with it that it has your identity and your spin, and when it makes mistakes, you can correct it.
Yes, totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was thoroughly, I think because I've had the ideas brewing in me for so long, it it was a faster process. Like the cookbook creation, which I've used to have 8 cookbooks out there, that the recipe testing part is what is the most time consuming.
Mm-hmm.
So a book with no recipes was compared to
Easy.
what I've done in the past, pretty smooth sailing.
Yeah, and you've done plenty of testing on what you're talking about in the book.
Mm.
Now, how old are your children now?
We have 2 children. Our oldest son, the one with Angelman, he'll be turning 10 in
10.
January, and we have another son who just turned 7 in September.
Nice. Okay, so it's been a decade with
Hmm.
your son with Angel Man, and clearly you were not prepared.
Correct. Yeah, no, I don't think anyone is quite prepared.
So what's wonderful about this book is if anyone is just jumping in and is hit with a diagnosis of a child that has special needs, this book can make people feel less alone
Hmm.
and give all kinds of resources. But also what I like about it is it's very digestible. It's very easy to read. You can take what you want from it. It's not like really academic where it's heavy and all kinds of things. It's just
Yeah.
real.
Yeah, I wanted it because I know I'm the target market for the book, so I know what my bandwidth is. So like the font size is large, it's not gonna cause a strain on eyes. It's like something that you could pick up and open and just, you know, there's a lot in there that if you just open to a page, it could give you that guidance and support. And it was particularly like I mentioned in the books, I've been co-facilitating support groups for fathers of special needs kids the last few years. One in person that I do here outside of Boulder for any diagnosis. So we have anything from, ADHD, mild autism, all the way to like really complex genetic, medical, in and out of the hospital, multiple times, wheelchairs, feeding tubes, like we have the
Mm.
whole like spectrum. And so uh my wish was just to kind of have this be like something that people could turn to realize that they're not alone in their experience and just share the wisdom and insights that have been offered to me through all these years from other people and my own experience.
So where did you turn when you first got the diagnosis for your son?
We had a very interesting diagnosis story because basically we our son was born in Miami, and it was our first child. We didn't have family there. We
Mm.
didn't have a reference point, so we weren't aware like if he was missing milestones. We just thought we had a child,
Yeah.
everything was normal. And then it wasn't until he was about a year and a half we had moved out to Colorado where the pediatrician thought he was like delayed, and we were kind of taken back, and there was a test like can he put a raisin through a Cheerio. I remember like specific questions like, well, I haven't tried asking him to put a raisin through a Cheerio. And then we went back again, and then it did look like there were delays, and there was about a 6-month waiting list to get into a pediatric evaluation at the hospital here. And then during that evaluation, they thought they gave him an autism diagnosis, and
Hmm.
it didn't quite feel right. But I remember kind of just, it's very overwhelming. You're always hoping you get the best news in situations. And so and growing up, or my own experience, like in other issues, like it's like these are the things that happen to other people but not to
Yep.
you. And then when it happens to you, I think then there's some, you know reality shock and also growth that occurs. But I remember like they gave you a book, and it's like one of the first pages was like your dreams for your child are dead. It's like I was like, oh my God, this is like crazy. And it's very overwhelming. You get a lot of information. You don't really know quite where to start, or which agency to go to, or
Mm.
things that there's a language that you learn about waivers and benefits from different like agencies. And then we did some additional genetic testing, and then we got uh, it. we isolated the chromosome that it was related to, and it could have been one of two conditions. One is called Prader-Willi syndrome, and the
Hmm,
other is Angelman syndrome, neither of which I had any idea what they
what
meant,
it
but
was.
the head at the pediatrics thought it was Prader-Willi, and so we were, for about a year, we were thinking we had Prader-Willi, and we went to like a conference, and then we went to a clinic, and during that clinic, the geneticist there said, I don't think this is Prader-Willi. I think it's Angelman." And then, so then we did further testing, and I was Googling Angelman syndrome after that. And that's like, you probably know, like one of the least favorite things to do is start Googling syndromes and conditions because you always see like the worst case
Yeah.
scenario. And I remember that it was like they said, no speech or absence of speech or nonverbal. And I was like hoping that's just like as a for, do they grow out of it or is it delayed? And so it was kind of like a wrecking ball type experience as the awareness of like what we were actually dealing with occurred. Or some people find out right away. Ours was kind of like a long, drawn out experience, which in some ways was a little easier for us. Like we were able to have a year and a half of blissful ignorance, not really knowing anything. So it was kind of like a slow thing. Some people find out earlier, but that was our story.
There is something about knowing what it is, what the problem is, and having a
Hmm.
name to it, whether the news is terrible or not so terrible. You just need to know, right?
Yeah, we resisted a while because we were just like, we didn't want to put him into a box, that
Mm,
and people's expectations and
hmm.
perceptions related to that. But eventually it was beneficial, especially as far as getting early intervention services and like speech and OT and PT. And in
But
my
early
dad's group,
intervention is probably very important to get the most out
it's,
of whatever you
yeah,
can.
it's super important and a lot of kids, they could do a big turnaround with early intervention. So PT is physical therapy, OT is occupational therapy or speech therapy. Uh, in my dad's group, there's still people that like they don't know. There's like 1 in 500 cases known around the world or undiagnosed. So you get a crash course in like genetics, and so it's pretty fascinating, like the syndrome, the how many rare disease syndromes there are, and what the landscapes are for them.
The actor Colin Farrell, his
Hmm.
son as Angelman, I think.
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah, and he was trying to get awareness around it, right?
I think People magazine did like a cover article on him, which brought a lot more attention to it. It's often misdiagnosed as autism, and there's I like they say 1 in 15,000 births is Angelman, but it seems like it's less frequent than that. So, but since then we've become more involved with the Angelman Syndrome Foundation, which is a major organization that supports families and research, and there is actually a lot of hope on the horizon for treatments with new technology in the field of genetics. So it's a whole new world and landscape.
Yeah, I read there is technology that enables some kind of repair to different chromosomes
Hmm.
for certain diseases, but I'm assuming that that will help those that aren't born yet rather than those that are born with it.
Well, there's been some clinical trials in that have been fast tracked by the uh, FDA that are showing positive results in like there's a trial for people in there between 18 and 20, and so there's still reason to hope.
Wow.
It's kind of taking like a two-pronged approach of like working with as best we can with the current situation and also still realizing that there are these like amazing advances in medical uh, science that could potentially help and have helped kids kind of gain in functionality and like cognitive level communication, a lot of the things that are unique to Angelman.
Okay, so I took a bunch of notes from your book,
Okay, cool.
and we could talk about some of them.
Sure.
It's all just really great life tools.
Hmm. That's what I found.
And we can all use all of these probably.
Mm,
Uh, the first note I took was about tending to your own mental health
mm,
and how it's not a luxury.
yeah.
It's an act of love and necessity for you, your child, and your partner, your family, your friends, and community. It's like kind of like that analogy. I use it all the time when we're in a plane and
Hmm.
we need the oxygen mask. We have to put it
Yep.
on ourselves first. We're worthless if we don't take care of
Exactly.
ourselves first,
It's
right?
a very appropriate analogy.
Yeah.
Uh,
But
Yeah.
it's hard, especially as I'm not a parent,
Mm,
but and I can't imagine because you want to do everything for your child, and
hmm.
that means you put yourself aside.
Yeah. Yep. It's well, it's also I reference this also in the book, but the Seven Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. It's a great book on personal development and optimizing performance. And one of the habits he calls is sharpening the saw. And so he does the example of like if you're like you're trying to cut down a tree with a saw and you're like, I got to cut this tree down. So just keep using the saw and using it. And if you don't stop and sharpen the saw, you're not going to be as effective if you do take that time and sharpen the saw. So that to me is like there's a whole chapter on self-care, and that's where that fits in, kind of
Hmm.
nurturing our mental health, taking the time to put into that helps us deal with everything else.
Right. Well, there's probably a lot of analogies to get that point across.
Hmm.
Um, you talked about grounding tools, which I
Hmm.
thought was really good. Just some good, simple things that you can do when everything seems so overwhelming.
Yeah.
And everybody can do these things.
Yeah.
So I just want to go through them. The first one is
Sure.
deep breathing. And
Mm.
I can't tell you how many times on this program I've either started it by saying it, okay, everybody, let's just take a breath.
Hmm. Yeah.
Because we all breathe for a living and
Yep. That's a good way of saying it. That's very true.
we need to breathe. And it's so healing, it's so grounding.
Hmm. Yeah, that was what I was able to do because like I've always been interested in like if I think we probably talked after my first book, the Vegan Fusion World Cuisine book came out, and there's a lot of wisdom quotes and philosophy and sacred sites and a lot of these ideas of just like mindfulness and meditation and stillness and sitting and breathing have been part of my path for a very long time. So this book was an opportunity to like share that in this setting, but like the breathing in particular, I think is a really important tool for us to be able to have access to when our mind that's what I've just come in my experience, just like your mental state leads you to where your emotional state is going to be. And so if you do some of these techniques, like you could get a little bit more of a grip on some of that, the mental agitation.
So cold water on the face or wrists or even holding an ice cube. What does that
Mm.
do?
I think it just brings you into the present moment, and that's where, like I mentioned, also like I personally like doing hydrotherapy type things like cold plunges or
Mm.
steams, and where like you could get your mind. The goal is to like have your mind not go into spirals or catastrophize or kind of get in these loops, and so anything that could just bring you into like a present moment awareness, even like feeling your feet on the ground or water is a big tool for me, but those are things that could just bring you into the present moment more.
Okay, another thing that you mentioned, which I don't remember hearing before, but I love it, is amor fati.
Hmm.
And I think somehow I was born with that understanding,
That's
um,
great. That's a good one.
but a lot of people aren't. Can you?
Yeah, that was a huge one for me for actually dealing with trauma. I remember like so in my philosophical journey, like coming across the teachings of Joseph Campbell, who's a mythologist, and the hero's journey is very inspiring for me. And one of the things that he shared is he references it to Nietzsche, who said that like the sign of greatness is amor fati, which is I love my fate or love of your fate. So it's an idea of just like as much as we can just embracing our path and our life. And actually have a little medallion that says amor fati that I carry with me just to remind me, but that his idea is that like, and this is a tough one in a lot of situations, but that like nothing really negative could happen, because when you're experiencing something and it's challenging, that it elicits in you like a reserve of strength that you may not have had to use before. And so that he says things like the demon you can swallow gives you its power. So I've used that during like I was went through a divorce experience many years ago, and that was
Hmm.
like one of my cornerstone like teachings of like it's the idea of saying yes to life. And so it's that's a big one for me. It's also in a part of like a stoic philosophical approach as well.
So this was a foundation for you before you had your children.
Yeah, so a lot of the, because there's one chapter on like these mental tools or affirmations, and those are things that I've been cultivating for decades. Like Carpe Diem is another one where, which is seize the day, which there was that movie, The Dead Poets Society. I don't know if you saw that one with Robin Williams. It's one of
Yes.
my favorite movies, where it's just this idea of like making the most of our lives, and even when it sucks and seems like it sucks, to try to still be able to have that attitude of like seizing the day. So a lot of those things were things that concepts or things that I've been feeling for a long time.
Can I read a couple of paragraphs under Amor Fati?
Please,
I
please,
just loved it.
yeah.
Amor fat, amor fati. I love my fate. Another core guiding principle in my life that I aspire to. This is more than philosophical poetry. It's a potential anchor for parents of a child with disability. It asks a nearly impossible question. Can I embrace not only what is beautiful in my child's journey and in my life, but also what is hard, unfair, and painful?
Mm,
Amor fati does not deny grief, nor does it romanticize suffering. Instead, it invites a quiet, radical surrender, a soft yes to reality. In the world of special needs parenting, where so much is out of our control, this principle becomes a source of profound strength. When therapies fail, when progress stalls, when dreams shift dramatically, Amor Fati says, this too is part of my unique and sacred path. This mindset doesn't mean we stop advocating or resign ourselves to hardship. It means we stop fighting the fact that this is our life
mm.
and begin to shape it with intention and love. Accepting our fate allows us to stop asking, why me? And start asking, what now? To shift from complaining to problem solving. Well
Yeah,
said. I-
that's a big one.
And I remember during my personal cancer journey,
Mm,
it was just for me, I somehow I've always naturally been like this, not,
that's amazing.
and I it was just accept and move on. Don't
Mm, mm,
resist, accept
mm,
and move on. Okay, this
mm.
is the shit I've been given now.
Right.
Let's move forward. What
Yeah.
now?
Yeah, I remember we I don't even know if we had known about the diagnosis at this point, but Ashley and I, my wife, were in the airport, and there was this woman with three kids traveling alone, and it looks like they had, some issues, developmental issues. And she was just like, we're problem solvers, we're problem solvers. And I just remember it made like an impact. Like she was just like holding that space of strength, and just like, yeah, viewing it as something to solve and not wallow in, I
And
guess.
not resist.
Yeah,
So much energy on resisting is doesn't help.
yeah, definitely.
Okay, another thing that I loved. You have a quote here before you start chapter 11, listening to the body, a somatic approach to stress. It's that a Naomi Judd quote, your body hears everything your mind says.
Mm,
And again, back to my cancer journey, I had
mm.
listened to an audio tape by, and I'm forgetting his name right now. How can I forget this wonderful person's A Wisdom of the Souls was his tape. He was a biologist and then he got into metaphysics and all kinds of spiritual stuff. And what I got from it is the environment. Our cells respond to the environment they perceive, which is
Mm,
basically what Naomi Judd said. Your body hears everything your mind says. So all your 30 trillion, 50 trillion, how many cells you have, whatever messages you're telling them,
yeah,
your body hears. And
yeah.
so we have to be careful. And that's why I love all the affirmations that you include throughout the book.
Mm. Yeah, I think I mean, I know like it's like a stress response and like, when like being in a like a hyper vigilant state, which a lot of us are as special needs parents, but a lot of people just in general are in this hyper vigilance where you can go from like a 0 to 10 really fast because of that, where you could notice like, your shoulders being tense or like your jaw clenching, things like that, or build up over time. So it's just like a gentle reminder that these exercises or like some of the techniques or just even movement, some of the other things I talk about in the book are good to help create some space where we're not accumulating the stress and tension in our bodies.
And that leads to, you also talk about why movement matters.
Mm.
And I just think about myself and probably other people. Uh, some people were probably reprimanded when they were a child in class for moving too much. But
Hmm.
we're not meant to sit still. We're
Right,
meant to
right.
move.
Yeah.
And I know that when I'm sitting doing some kind of desk work,
Hmm.
I'm always, I gotta keep moving and
Uh-huh.
squeezing and releasing and moving. I just can't sit still. And I don't think that's a fault.
Right, totally.
Okay. It was funny when I saw your chapter on self-care snacks.
Hmm.
I thought, okay, this show's called It's All About Food, and that'll probably, be appropriate because that'll be my
To tie it
tie-in.
in, right.
But it's not about food at all. But
Yeah.
I still think this is an important subject because we don't
Mm,
always talk about the food we put in our mouth. It's
mm,
also other kinds of nourishment
hmm.
and self-care snacks. Tell me about them.
So that was actually my wife, Ashley, she's a plant-based naturopathic doctor, very focused on
Oh,
wellness and self-care. And I think I might have mentioned we do programs together as the doctor and the chef. We have some online courses
right. I remember that.
together. So she was involved in the creation of the book, and that was definitely her input. And it's just this idea of like first like how you started the show on the mental health topic, like that this isn't like a luxury type thing. This is really like essential survival tools, and some people feel like, well, I need to be able to like take a vacation for a week on the beach in order to like experience relaxation. So the whole theme of the book, and particularly that chapter, is just like this idea of like seizing the micro moments, and that you could even I like years ago heard of this idea of just take a vacation in your mind for a few minutes. So like you could do some of these techniques like smelling a fragrance or fresh herbs or like just moving, doing a few squats, things that can break you out of this, like, again, that hyper vigilant, tense mode, to like have micro moments of ease, the feeling of ease and, reduction in stress, right? She called them snacks, so I use that in the book.
I love that word. But the point is, there are so many great tools out there that can help us get through life.
Mm,
And this idea of going somewhere, like a little mini vacation. I remember once going to some meditation program when I was younger. I don't know where it was. I don't know what it was. I don't know why I went.
Mm,
Or even if it was a meditation thing, I don't know what it was, but we were all told to imagine a place and we could create it. It could be somewhere we had been or a place we can create. And I created this place outdoors.
mm.
And it had some special things that I like outdoors. And over the years, I've kind of embellished it a little. Recently, I built a house there.
Nice. That's
Um,
awesome.
but it's my place.
Hmm.
And there's something very, very precious about it. And it's very real to me at this point
Yeah,
because I've been going there for so long.
that's amazing. Yeah, I think it our men it goes back for me like again the idea of just like how we cultivate our mental headspace is so important and whatever tools we can use to keep us I've in like that positive side of the equation are really important. I feel like that's like my main like spiritual practice is to as I go through the day and witnessing the events around us like that to me seem like off the chart insane to like just really go back to that space of trying to keep a positive mindset.
Okay, so we touched on some of the things in the book that are like survival tools
Mm,
and tools to help you not only survive, but maybe even thrive.
yeah.
Um, with our bodies,
Mm,
movement, affirmations. There are lots of wonderful affirmations to relieve stress and to ground ourselves, not to be overwhelmed in an overwhelming situation.
mm,
But now I want to move over to some of the, what do I call them? The reality that you have to really deal with,
mm,
which is the medical establishment, the bills, the financial issues, and just dealing with everyone around you.
yeah.
More challenges.
Yep. Yeah. So that was just an important because like I mentioned, when you first get a diagnosis, it's just very overwhelming. You're always like hoping for the positive news or when you meet, test results or all these things at every crossroad, you're always hoping for like the most positive outcome. And when you're confronted with something that you really is hard to put a positive spin on, and you then have to navigate that. There's a couple of chapters in the book that are devoted to that, like specifically like community building, and that's where, a lot of it's just strange. We've been in this like world for almost 10 years and it's still we're like, oh, I didn't never heard that from any of the organizations. It just came from another parent. And so establishing like community connections. There's a lot of ways to do that, like locally or online, that could share resources like specific to your diagnosis or just in general, you know, as special needs or disability. Some people like the word special needs, some like disability. There's like an ongoing
Yeah, a
debate
debate.
about that, but and then just I list some of these major agencies that you can go to as like a first step when you have a diagnosis, like getting a case manager, things like that that can help you. Now, there's a section it's called navigating systems, so the just provides more on the practical side of things.
So you need a lot of resources, and the community portion is really very helpful on many, many levels. Um, I know that from time to time, I coach people that just got a cancer diagnosis,
Mm,
and I know what it means to them when I tell them what I went through and what I did and what tips I have, and then they share. And because especially the way the medical establishment works today, you rarely have one person
right.
who is orchestrating
Yeah.
everything about you.
Right.
You have all these different people, and sometimes you have to let each of them know what's going on because they're not up on everything. And
Yeah.
that adds another level of being
Yeah,
overwhelmed. And so
totally.
sometimes when you have community and people can help you navigate through that
Yeah,
mess.
definitely. Yeah. And just it's on a lot of levels important. Like I said, the community touches on both the assistance in navigating the systems, which is essential, like getting like the where's a good respite provider, which, PT is you can connect with all that. A lot of that comes through parents, but the sense of isolation is another, that's probably one of the hardest things for people in this situation is that you're kind of overwhelmed. And I think that like what we tend to do is think like the universe has conspired to put this affliction on just us and like that
Hmm.
adds like a lot of weight to it. But when you're able to connect with other people that can have are in it or been through it, you that it breaks that sense of isolation. And a lot of my experience in doing the dads groups is based on that they're just like there's a sense of ease where you can let your guard down a little. You don't have to like justify or explain. People kind of get it more, and there's a huge amount of healing that occurs in that experience.
The internet is great for that in some respects
Hmm.
because you can discover a lot of communities either on the social media platforms or other places, and that can be beneficial. And just like anything, just like AI or whatever, it has its advantages and disadvantages. And you talk a little bit about, doing your Google searches when you first found out about the diagnosis, and that can be empowering, but it can also be devastating.
Yeah, yep. It's the online support groups are great. The Googling is as I know that's our natural instinct. It's just you definitely see the worst of the worst, or in my experience, you tend to see that. So I advise people to hold off on that if they can.
Yeah, I remember reading studies trying to navigate through my own advanced ovarian cancer, and there were
Mm,
these studies. A lot of them would talk about they tried a technique and it would add 3 months to the person's lifespan.
yeah,
Like,
yep,
no, I'm not
right.
interested in that. I want
Yeah,
to
yeah.
live. So a lot of that was very
Mm,
frustrating. Finding the right medical professionals that you like. One thing I like that you said was trust your gut.
yeah,
That's so
definitely.
key.
Yeah, and just over the years of just like you kind of need to build a team. Like you said, there's usually not one, you're the conductor,
Yeah.
there's and so that's been a process of trial and error. But when we find someone who really cares about our son, and you could tell people that love what they do, it's like their passion. When people are following their passion, it kind of shows. So building the team based on that is like uh, has been super helpful for us.
And getting second opinions. For some
Yes.
reason, people think I'm not one of them, so I can't understand this, but I guess they're so in awe of
Mm,
a medical doctor because for
yes.
some reason we put them on a platform for so
Yep.
long. That
Yeah.
platform is kind of being knocked down now, but
I think so.
but either they look up to them or they're intimidated by them that they don't think of asking enough questions or even looking for someone else that might have a different opinion, and many will.
Yeah, that's also really important. I mean, it's interesting. I touch on this like the cycles of grief, like that you can go through like through a loss. With the special needs parenting, grief is kind of cyclical. It's not, it's more like it kind of keeps coming up in different ways, and the denial part is really big at first. Like I know definitely I was in that headspace just as a way to cope with things. And so the denial part, if you follow the denial part, that'll lead you to get second opinions. So on that side, the denial
Okay.
could work to
Beneficial.
your advantage. So you know I recommend that as well. I think that's really important. So you're not putting all your faith in one person's perspective.
And get everything in writing.
Yep.
Everything. Now, that could be an email, but
Hmm.
just words written down either on the screen by the person you're dealing with.
Mm.
This is something in all areas of life. Any kind of dealing that you
Hmm.
have, you want it in writing.
I actually, I think I've always been like a kind of underliner and a highlighter and note taker when I read. So I left blank pages for notes, and like for each chapter, in the back, there's like place to write and take notes. So that was part of my thinking as well.
Uh, this subject is particularly meaningful right now in 2025, financial and government programs.
Mm,
And there are many out there that can help. I'm assuming you probably take advantage of them, and some of them may
yes.
be going away.
Yeah, it's one of those. I remember one of the dads. He'd says He'd say this years ago. We're just one administration away from all of our benefits being taken away, and that's come to play out a little bit. That's not to bring politics into the
Oh, please do.
situation, but it's kind of. I mean, it, having been in this. This is like these are people that are kind of at the end of their rope. This whole community, like they're dealing with like stress and anxiety and situations that are, parenting is hard, life is hard. It's not unique to special needs parenting, but a lot of these families are faced with, situations like, well, could I either work or take care of my kid, get what they need. So I would consider the disability community one of the more vulnerable portions of the population, and to dangle the removal of like services and like aid to families is like really uh hard to understand like people's thinking. So, and in my book I do share there's a most of the chapters have something called Our Stories where other families have chimed
Hmm.
in, and on that section in particular, even if they're not immediately impacted financially, a lot of families are. They have to like one parent will have to like work part-time or not work, but there's always that looming like, things like having a therapist come to your house to help with your kid in the setting, or like have a nurse go to school with your kid. There's like all these services that families rely on, and to have like a level of uncertainty around that because of the political climate is really uh
It's criminal.
I was gonna say criminal. It's
I
not
can say
fair.
it. You don't have to.
Yeah.
But that's where we are today. I
Yeah.
also want to just take a moment to give gratitude to those people, that the nurses, the aides,
Hmm.
the teachers that are there to help the special needs children, because as parents, you've got a big load, and
Hmm.
these people come along and they give you a break, but their load is big too.
Yeah. Yep. They're the people that help create the islands of peace for us. So the idea of islands of peace are those moments where you could lift your head a little bit above the water and realize that this moment right now, I'm not I'm not just like drowning in chaos. I could like maybe it's just appreciating the beautiful fall colors, like having those moments where like, okay, this is a moment I'm like identifying that right now this is like a peaceful moment, and then maybe there'll be another one soon. That's the whole idea of the book, is to just be able to identify and cultivate those as much as we can. But the respite providers and the healthcare professionals and are the people that help give us the opportunity for more of those peaceful moments.
Yeah. Well, we saw decades ago, I remember in California in the early 80s, Ronald Reagan was president, I think. And a lot of mental health places were shut down.
Hmm.
And there were just people that needed help and had nowhere to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's part of the homeless situation today.
Yep. Yeah.
What happens to those people that have no
Right.
help and nowhere to go?
Yeah.
Yeah, and we can do so much better.
Yeah, and it's interesting just as like a tie into the vegan thing is that when I talk about like why people embrace a plant-based lifestyle, I know I probably talked about this with you, this idea of like three main reasons or three doors that go into the same room, the health or medical door, the environmental or sustainability door, or concerns for animal welfare.
Hmm.
The idea with the health and medical door is that so many of these health crises and challenges that we have are food and diet related. So like heart disease, high cholesterol, diabetes, certain forms of cancer, like all of those can, in my opinion, be addressed, prevented, and reversed in many of those instances by embracing a whole food plant-based diet. And on some level, you could say, well, people could do what they want. If they want to eat this way, it's their own health. But if you look at like the social cost of all of that together, the insane amount of money that's spent, in my opinion, unnecessarily treating these
Yes,
conditions when there's an easier cost, that I feel like that would free up enough resources
yes,
as a society to help provide more of these like social
yes.
services and issues. So it actually does tie in together.
It does. And I remember talking about that kind of concept years ago, and I haven't thought about it recently. So thanks
Mm.
for refreshing that. But absolutely, we put so
Yeah,
much money into these chronic diseases that are reversible and preventable, and we
yeah.
wouldn't have to put our money there. And we could have put it to people that are paralyzed or,
Mm.
have so many different things that we don't know how
Yeah,
to fix at
yep,
this point. And then we
totally.
could figure out how to fix them.
Yep.
Okay. One more thing. Well, maybe
Sure.
not one more thing, but another thing. Uh, you talk about not just taking care of yourself, but acknowledging what's going on with the people around you. So you
Mm.
have a wife and you have another child, and they are all experiencing something because of the situation.
Yeah.
And you have to navigate all of that and acknowledge, and everybody
Mm.
needs to respect everybody. And you talk about that quite a bit.
Yeah, there's because I mentioned it as like one of the those are hot spots that I call them. And then again, in just the years of being in this uh community and also through the dads groups, these are like recurring themes of like our own mental health challenges, but then also our partners. And it's it's challenging to see someone you love struggle. And when in this situation, it's like kind of an ebb and flow. Sometimes one parent may be in a better headspace than the other, and it's like you
Mm,
could kind of be supportive. It's like goes back and forth. But there is just a sense of like wanting to change or wanting to be able to help another person. And that's where it kind of ties into one of the other themes that I mentioned of the serenity prayer of like identifying what's within our control and what's not in our control. And that could be really hard. And when you see, in my case, like my wife or my other son suffering because, or really challenged because of what circumstances we're in, it's like you want to just wave your wand and make it all better. There's a kind of a letting go, so like a releasing the resistance, like you said, that takes place. But those are definitely things to be aware of, like your partner's mental health and then the impact on the sibling. A lot of times that's one of the biggest challenges we have, is trying to ensure that our other child, his mental health is how, as a 7-year old, trying to process like a nonverbal sibling, or that he's not the same as others, or why are we, why can't he talk? And there's a lot of like heartbreaking moments where you just have to do your best to like encourage them and prioritize their mental health as well.
it's hard enough for an adult to understand amor fati, let alone a
Mm.
child.
Yeah, yep, totally.
Okay, now I think you have to get to the end of the book to realize you can get some digital bonuses with the book.
Yes.
Purchasing a book, you get more.
So we basically, yeah, it was just the book was just like kind of putting the foot in the water, but I wanted to provide additional support. So there's a companion workbook
Mm.
that people can print out that eventually I'll have as a also a soft cover paperback book, but for now it's a digital download where you could print out sections of it or the whole thing, and it gives you more space to like work on these concepts that the book brings out. And then there's a really nice grounding meditation. I'll send you a link so you could
No,
check them
goody.
out too. But I had there's just like a grounding meditation for caregivers, just like a 5 minute
I
take this
want to
time
hear
for
that. Hmm.
yourself and like do some breathing. I had an amazing voiceover woman from England do it, so it's like a nice, calm and
Nice.
soothing British accent, which I love. And then there's a self-care challenge, like PDF, a single page, just a reminder of like doing these snacks like one day a week, just like smell of fresh air, little reminders like to prioritize the self-care. But I'll make a note to send that to you.
So I mentioned to you earlier, my mom's 92. She's in a nursing
Mm,
home, but we put her in a year ago, and it's really made a difference in my life because I know that she's being cared for, and
mm,
she doesn't use a cell phone anymore, but she was calling me all the time and at all
mm,
hours, and I lived
mm,
nearby, so I was always running to fix her TV remote or her cell phone or something just
mm.
insane.
Yeah,
And there's a lot of things in here that are useful for caregivers of parents, not
yeah,
just children.
yeah. I think yeah, maybe just like the chicken soup for the souls, or maybe ways to do this for Islands of Peace for
Yeah,
stressed out moms, or Islands for Peace for
absolutely. Yeah,
adult
there's a
caregivers
lot of
too.
us out there. Huh. I before I couldn't remember his name, but it was Bruce Lipton who
Oh,
wrote
okay.
Wisdom of the
Hmm.
Cells
Nice.
when we were talking about the 30 to 50 trillion cells in our
Mm,
bodies, and
mm,
they listen to the environment we create for them. So we have
mm.
to be careful about what we're scripting when it comes
Yeah.
to our thoughts. Okay, just to wrap this up, you
Okay.
are an amazing chef and you've written a whole bunch of cookbooks. What food are you preparing for your family? What are your children like? Has that been challenging?
I think, well, some people ask how long will we raise our kids vegan, and we'll say because they've been vegan since birth, until they're old enough to decide for themselves, like 32 or 33 years old. But I do a rotation of foods. I might have talked about like our go-to is like a monk bowl, which is like a some type of grain or starch. Different green would be different veggies and proteins, of rotating through plant proteins. So um, our oldest son say we have our oldest son Sage eats pretty much anything like fistful of cooked spinach, or he'll eat pretty much, because there's only like a couple of things that he doesn't like. And our younger son is more selective, but he's been actually helping me a lot in the kitchen these days. He
Nice.
loves cooking, so we keep it pretty simple here, just like veggies. Like we do a lot of roasting of tofu, different beans, either roasting veggies or steaming them, grilling them, and then rotating through like the plant proteins. So frozen foods play a little bit of a role. I will include, like, we just had like a taco night last night, or we'll use some like do tater tots or fries that are frozen. And so it's try to keep it like, also my books are the 30-minute vegan books.
Hmm.
So I try to keep them quick and easy is definitely a priority now, more than ever.
Right. Well, you probably can't see them, but I've got like five of your books
Oh,
right
nice.
about there.
Awesome. Cool. Thank
Yeah, they're
you.
excellent. I'm happy to have them. Okay, Mark, what didn't we touch before I let you go?
Well, I just appreciate the opportunity I haven't done many interviews yet for the new book, so I appreciate the opportunity to to share with you, and I appreciate your thoughtfulness in going through the book, and your questions are great to help me share kind of ideas behind the book.
You know, social media is with their algorithms, you never know who's going to pop up, and I don't always see your posts, but I saw it, and as soon as I saw it, I reached out because I thought, oh my goodness, people need this book, and I
Mhm.
wanted to hear from you, and so I'm happy we got this moment. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Okay, everybody, I think we've come to an end. We've been talking with Mark Reinfeld in his book, Islands of Peace, Navigating the World of Special Needs Parenting. Thanks again for joining me, and everyone, have a delicious week.
Thank you, Karen. Take care.
Okay, bye-bye.